Hello everybody, welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Valspar DFS Tactics show. Got a lot to get into, a horrendous forecast for the Valspar Championship this week down in Palm Harbor. We also have a lot of chalk in the price board. A lot of that due to the most recent field change. So if you have already submitted lineups or are in the process of doing so, make sure you make a note. Keegan Bradley has withdrawn. So Keegan is out. He was going to be fairly popular, but now that ownership is getting even more spread to players that were already getting a lot of projected ownership. So a forecast that we need to dissect and analyze, some chalk that we need to figure out how to pivot away from, and as always we need to figure out which lineups and players are going to be the most optimal this week. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter gambler and a much better DFS player. Go check them out. It's well worth your investment. In the description to the video, there are links to all of my social media. Twitter and Instagram, for example, is down there. Twitter and Instagram is where I post my research for the golf tournaments of the week. So I posted some research this past Monday around the previous winners of the Valspar Championship. So if you want to see a summary of the research that I do, give me a follow at those places. Twitter is also where I post my betting cards every week. So if you would like to see my betting card week after week, that is over on Twitter. And Twitch is where I do a lot of the in-depth research for the week in general. It's a lot more laid back. I have I have some music going in the background. It's generally just more relaxed, but certainly an in-depth look or a masochist's view of trying to dissect all of the golf data. But Twitch is also where I do baseball content, some gaming, all of that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, give me a follow over at Twitch. And then finally, we're live. Chat's open. Again, how much have you looked at the forecast? What players are you considering using? Who are some of the chalk that you won't be able to get away from? Who are you pivoting to? And of course, as you can tell, as I have all week, I'm wearing my fandom. It is March Madness week. So if you would like to jump into chat with a little bit of March Madness, then feel free to do that as well. But we're here for the Valspar Championship. So let's do it. Let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2023 Valspar Championship. And we're going to start over at Windfinder with that aforementioned horrendous forecast. You can see tomorrow looks to be pretty difficult in the morning. Now, sustained winds only at 10 to 12 miles an hour, but gusts into the mid-20s. And then it supposedly tapers off in the afternoon. Having said that, wind generally picks up in the afternoon and the course gets tougher in the afternoon. So while this is a fairly obvious Thursday PM favor, probably not as much as you would think originally. And then Friday looks pretty even. Now, the morning has more gusts, but it's pretty even. And again, the wind generally picks up in the afternoon as it is. So based on the 2 days of a forecast or super forecast that we have, there certainly looks to be a Thursday PM, Friday AM favor, but it's not terribly strong. It's only the fact that Thursday afternoon appears to have the best wind in the week. That's what I have for you in terms of wind forecast. Again, I'll factor it, but it's probably not going to be a humongous part of the decision process for me in terms of this golfer or that golfer. It might break a tie, but I'm certainly not excluding anybody if they are teeing off tomorrow morning per se, and then have the Friday afternoon. And then just to give you an idea, Saturday and Sunday, all of it looks horrendous. You've got some storms potentially moving in on Saturday, so that could delay as well. I mean, even if this gets pushed back, you can see this forecast, Monday, even Tuesday, it's just a lot of wind. So anybody who is not good in the wind, I am pretty much writing off, especially since Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, maybe even into Monday, looks like it's full of wind. The slight exception might be the Thursday afternoon. But with that, let's move on over to Fantasy National. And because of that forecast, I have went ahead and set the moderate and windy filter and to the start of 2022. So give these players a pretty significant boost. These players have consistently shown time and time again that they are good in the wind. Justin Thomas, Matt Fitzpatrick, Sam Burns, Jordan Spieth, Brian Harmon, Gary Woodland, Denny McCarthy, Adam Long, Adam Hadwin, and Ben Griffin. Again, Keegan Bradley has withdrawn. He has withdrawn, so make sure you make that note. So there's your top 10 in terms of wind. If you want to continue on down, Cameron Percy, Alex Smalley, Ryan Armour, Mav McNeely, Brandon Wu, JT Poston, Novak, Patrick Rogers, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose. There's your top 20. And you can see all the way down to about the top 30 for your information. But at the other end of the spectrum, these are the players that I am really, really writing off, with the exception of maybe a few players that don't have a lot of rounds. But even then, I'm going to be very cautious with them. These are your worst players in the wind. Andrew Landry, Harry Higgs, Brandon Matthews, Jim Herman, Wesley Bryan, Max McGreevy, Jason Duffner, Dylan Wu, Ryan Brim, Kyle Stanley, Cole Hammer, Martin Trainer, Kevin Tway, Henrik Norlander, Richie Wierenski, Jimmy Walker, and on down the list here. Like I said, I'm not completely writing off some of these players, especially somebody like Nico Echeverria, who just won in Puerto Rico. That tournament is generally pretty windy. So it's not a complete write-off, but for players that have a lot of rounds, they need to be in that Thursday afternoon wave for me to consider them, and even then, it's going to be very, very slightly. But there's a look at your worst players in the wind since the start of 2022. But I think, and this just reinforces everything that I've been saying all week, I just think this tournament's going to be difficult due to the wind. The course in of itself is pretty difficult. So I'm going to add the filter for difficult here. And if we take a very quick look again at the past course conditions. Now, the past 2 years have played to average, but you see it's been mainly calm weather, maybe a round of moderate. And then in 2021, it was all average, had mostly calm winds. Before then, it was difficult. And they still had some calm winds when it was difficult. But anytime it was windy, it's been difficult. So, with that, your top players when a round has been difficult since the start of 2022 have been Matt Fitzpatrick, Justin Thomas, Sam Burns, Adam Hadwin, Ben Griffin, Ben Taylor, Justin Suh, Wyndham Clark, Tommy Fleetwood, and Adam Schenk. So a lot of overlap here between the top wind players and the top difficulty. Justin Thomas, Sam Burns, Adam Hadwin. Believe Tommy Fleetwood was up there for the wind as well. So, if you want to continue on down in terms of difficulty and your top performers, you've got Denny McCarthy, Brent Grant, Justin Rose, Gary Woodland, Pearson Coody, only 4 rounds, but he has shown that he's played well when it was difficult. Jordan Spieth, Eric Barnes, Cameron Percy, Joel Damon, Ryan Gerard, and on down to about the top 30 to 35 there. So give these players, again, a slight boost in your rankings or in your consideration, as I'm pretty confident this will be difficult this week. The other end of the spectrum, these players have not played well when it's difficult. Wesley Bryan, Ryan Brim, Brandon Matthews, Max McGreevy, Harry Higgs, Richie Wierenski, Jason Duffner, Eric Van Rooyen, Garrick Higo, Kisner, Rory Sabatini, Jimmy Walker, Henrik Norlander, Michael Thompson, Party Marty Laird, Ches Reavie, Cam Champ, Taylor Moore, and on down the list there. There's your worst players when a round has been difficult. So with all of that being considered and said, let's go ahead and move to my mixed condition model for the week. And we analyzed what I did last year for the Valspar. It looked like it was pretty successful. The winner was 5th in my rankings. I didn't have a lot of miscuts in my top 20. But some of the metrics weren't as predictive as I thought they would be. So that gave me a little bit of pause. But having said that, I'm sticking to my statistical analyst's guns, if you will, and I'm running it back, basically. Serve, thanks for jumping in chat. How are we doing this evening? How are you feeling about your lineups and wagers for the Valspar? Do you have any strong feelings? Player A, player B, kind of lineups are you looking at? Your top fades and pivots. Thanks for jumping in chat. And just because it's the Valspar, you don't, there is March Madness going on. So if you want to talk a little bit of banter with March Madness, you can see my fandom is being worn. So I'm up for it, all of that as well. But thanks for jumping in chat this Wednesday evening. But coming back to the mixed condition model, again, I'm just going to stick to what I feel strongest. So I went with 15% in strokes gain approach. Again, I feel like strokes gain approach is going to be probably one of the biggest factors this week, especially with the wind and the fact the course is pretty difficult. I think iron players are going to be a premium this week. I have 10% in strokes gain around the green, and there were a lot of different ways that you can look at this. This is labeled wrong. I apologize. This is strokes gained around the green in long rough. This is long rough strokes gained around the green. But we saw in the GCSIA tournament fact sheet on Sunday that they have grown this rough about 3/4 of an inch longer, and it's generally pretty thick already. So this is close to 4-inch thick rough. They've also brought it a lot closer to the greens. So these greens are hard to hit already with the rough being so close to the greens, meaning they've really cut out the intermediate area, if you will. I think around the green is going to be a pretty big factor this week again, or a big factor for this week. So I've got 10% in strokes gained around the green. No wagers, but I feel good about my lineups. Well, I don't know if you saw the intro. Make sure that you have double-checked your lineups. Keegan Bradley has withdrawn. I know, at least in Fantasy National, he still has a tee time. He has withdrawn, so make sure you double-check your lineups, that you don't have any lineups with Keegan in it. But that's good. Glad to hear that you are feeling good about your lineups. Hopefully it stays that way or gets confirmed throughout the show this evening. I have 10% in bogeys avoided when it's difficult. Again, just the belief that it's going to be very difficult this week. And we saw Monday in Excel that bogey avoidance is more important than birdies gained here at Innisbrook. So I'm looking at bogeys avoided for scoring. I believe that fairways are going to be pretty important, again, with the wind and the thickness of the rough. So I want to see who can hit fairways or who hits greens when they miss a fairway. So 15% in good drives gained, 5% in scrambling when it's difficult. Again, just the belief that around the green is going to be important. There is water in play on this course. So, if players are having to scramble from, yards quite a bit back, having gone into the water, I want to see who can scramble, who can get up and down and do it consistently. So I'm looking at that when it's difficult. You could certainly argue you could add some percentage here. I kind of ran out of percent because I think strokes gained approach is going to be so important this week. But 5% in scrambling. And then I ended the mixed condition model a little bit differently in the sense that I'm only looking at 2023 forward for the par 3s, 4s, and 5s. And the reason being that I mentioned at the end of Monday evening's show that the winner has had pretty good form coming in to the Valspar. They've at least had a top 20 in the past couple of months. So I want to see who's playing the best lately. What are these optimal ratings? I'm not sure what you're asking. This is the percentage that I have put into my mixed condition model to give my, or generate my rankings, or at least the analytics part of the rankings. I don't think there's an optimal per se if you're talking about a mixed condition model. If you're talking about something else, you might need to clarify so I don't misspeak. But we talked all week. Also, par 3s are going to be very important. There's 5 of them at this course. 15% in par 3s, and I feel very confidently that this range is the most important in terms of par 3s. So I've got an extra 5% in this range of par 3s. So really, you can kind of think of it as 20% in par 3s, 175 to 200. I'm also taking a pretty good look at par 3s in general. Nothing to do with par 4s in general. I'm focusing completely on this length of par 4, as this length makes up more than double of any other specific range of par 4s at Innisbrook. So I just believe that par 4s, 400, 450 are where the par 4s are going to be had this week. And then finally, 15% in 550 to 600 par 5s. I was thinking you were using this for an optimizer. It is a little bit. This is the Fantasy National portion, and kind of the pure numbers analytics for my rankings. I use a couple of different things for my for my rankings, and we're going to go there here in a bit. But I always make sure I give an explanation onto the metrics and the filters that I use, because this does make up the majority, or is the biggest percentage of my rankings. So I always make sure I give the audience, the viewers, my reasoning why on the metrics that I use. But there is no real optimal, I don't think. I mean, unless somebody has figured out a specific course and they've generated rankings 1 through 140 perfectly, I would argue that there is no optimal. Potential weaknesses of my mixed condition model, if strokes gained approach isn't that big of a factor, because around the green is a bigger factor than the strokes gained approach, I could be weak. Again, I just prefer strokes gained approach players. It's my preferred statistic when looking at golf. You will notice I don't have any putting in here. Yeah, absolutely. Any question is always welcome. If I'm not able to answer it live, I try to get to it either in the comments, or I'll reach out to you in some other form or fashion. But no question is off limits, really. If you have a question on my process, the rankings, whatever, feel free. Put it in chat. You'll notice that I don't have any putting metrics in here. And while putting is the most strokes gained shot type here, if we go to the breakdown, that's why I went through Monday night for the players that putt well on this Poa Trivialis overseed. So even though this is labeled as Bermuda, the Bermuda is dormant. There we go. the Bermuda is dormant, so it's really a Poa trivialis overseed that is the dominant surface. So we took a look at the end of Monday's show, the best putters on Poa trivialis overseed. Those courses are the American Express, the Waste Management Phoenix Open, the Players Championship, which happened last week, and the Valero Texas Open. So it's not a guarantee that if a player putts well at one or two of those courses that they'll putt well here, but at least it's the same surface. So if they've shown the propensity that they can light it up or go low with the putter, then at least you know that there's the capability there. Some players just hate a putting surface. For example, some players just don't like POA. Some players just don't like bent. So we took a look at the putting Monday evening, and we did that knowing that I wasn't going to be putting any putting in my mixed condition model, if I could talk. So that could be another weakness if putting is a dominant factor. Evening P, thanks for jumping in chat. Good to see you. Hopefully you had a good time in Arizona, or if you are still in Arizona, having a good time. Still pretty jealous of you on that one. But back from vacation in the desert, did not play at all. Oh, that's not fun. You needed to at least get out and with the air so thin out in Arizona, you could say you were hitting 350-yard bombs. But thanks for jumping in chat. Glad you were able to travel to and from safely and had a good time. Did not play DFS. I mean, well, you probably saved some money because there was quite a bit of carnage last week. Now, if you wouldn't have listened to me, you might have done well. Played golf twice and 2 clubs, spring training games. Nice. It sounds like a perfect vacation in the desert. Well done, sir. Well done. So you are catching just the end of the explanation to the mixed condition model. I'm glad everything went well. And looking forward to the Valspar and some spring training and Major League Baseball coming up. 1 round of golf costs $435, so I need to hit this week. Well, we're going to do our best. That's pretty pricey, but it's vacation. Have fun, relax. All right. So there's a look at my mixed condition model and what I could be weak to. Let's go ahead and move on over to Microsoft Excel, and I will bring up my rankings. So, just as a reminder, my rankings consist of the pure analytic numbers, which is from Fantasy National, which we just went over, a course value, which is an attempt. It's not perfect, but it's an attempt to give a player a value to how well they have played this course in the past 5 years. And I also bring in projected ownership into my rankings. Now, every week I will vary the percent of the pie, if you will, what gets divvied up to what. For example, this week, course value doesn't hold a whole lot because this course is volatile. Some players who have never played here have won and won it consistently. For Kevin Strowman in 2013, Charles Schwartzel in 2015. I believe there's one other, had never played here at Innisbrook and won. So not a whole lot of course value, but it is still something that you want to look at. So I do keep it in every week. So the majority of my rankings, you can see, is coming into the analytics. But that is a reminder to how I generate my rankings. There is no tee time or AM, PM favor factored into these rankings. I do that on my own outside or off the stream. I just show you win finders so you can make your own conclusions. With that explanation out of the way, my top 10 goes as follows this week. Tommy Fleetwood is number 1. Adam Hadwin is 2nd. Justin Rose. Ben Martin, 4th. Justin Thomas. David Lingmerth. Robbie Shelton. Jordan Spieth. Ben Griffin. And Wyndham Clark round out my top 10. Quite a few surprising names, I am sure, for a lot of you. I mean, let's start with Ben Martin. Low sevens. He's generally in alternate field events, but let's look a little bit at his metrics. Seventh in irons since the start of 2023. He's top 35 in terms of good drives gained, meaning hitting the fairway, or hitting the green if he missed the fairway when it's difficult. He's top 20 in par threes, and there's 5 of those here at the course. So he's been taking advantage of par threes. He takes advantage of the par fours of the length here at Innisbrook, and he's top 15 at the specific length of par threes, 175 to 200. So a lot to like here with Ben Martin. Really, really a lot to like. David Lingmerth coming off a very good Players Championship. You see he's 20th in irons in this field. Top 10 at hitting fairways or hitting the green from the rough. He also avoids bogeys when it's difficult. And again, I've talked all week how I think it's going to be difficult. So David Lingmerth, somebody else that I'm pretty darn high on. Ben Griffin, probably no surprise. Of course, Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas, Justin Rose. Now, again, Keegan would have been second, but he has withdrawn. So make sure you make a note of that, that Keegan has withdrawn, and anyone else who might have joined after the intro where I explained Keegan is withdrawn. So there's a look at my top 10, probably a few surprising names and obviously a few not. Let's stop rambling about my opinion. Let's go through, or at least my opinion on the rankings. Let's go through and look for some potential pivots and fades in the price board. So we're going to sort on salary, and in the 10Ks, we have 4 players. Justin Thomas at 10.9, Jordan Spieth at 10.6, Sam Burns at 10.2, and Matt Fitzpatrick at 10,000 even. You can see all of these players are rated pretty darn well in my rankings. Fitzpatrick is the lowest, and he's getting hurt quite a bit because of his iron play. It's been very, very bad lately, and that's what's kind of hurt me the past 2 or 3 weeks. So I've been pretty high on Fitzpatrick, and he's played really bad. No other way around it. He's played pretty bad. Sam Burns, look, he has not played well lately, but he is the 2-time defending champion of Innisbrook, of the Valspar. Am I picking him to win a 3rd time in a row? Absolutely not. I don't know where his game is. But with him being the most unique option in the 10Ks, at least projected unique option in the 10Ks, I still think Sam Burns is going to provide some value for you in DFS. Justin Thomas is going to be the chalkiest of the 10Ks. He's also the most expensive, but he's played very well here, and his irons are starting to come around again to be Justin Thomas-like. We all know what his ability around the green is, and with no putting in the mixed condition model, he rises analytically as well. Now, the par 4s of the specific length have been a little troubling, but we know his wind prowess. I think Justin Thomas is going to be pretty good. So I'm probably going to have quite a bit, or I'm going to use every single player in the 10Ks for a fact. If I don't come up to Justin Thomas, I've been trying to use Sam Burns. I don't feel great about it because, again, I don't know exactly where his game is. His iron play has been really bad. He hasn't been hitting fairways enough, but I mean, he loves Innisbrook. He's 3rd in par threes. He's top. It's off your screen, but he's still top 10 in avoiding bogeys when it's difficult. Sam Burns is made for Innisbrook. So I'm also a little bit cautious on Fitzpatrick because I've used him a lot lately, and he's really burned me by how poorly he's played. So in the 10Ks, I think I need to make Justin Thomas my number 1 in the 10Ks. He's the most expensive and the most projected owned. But if you're coming into the 10Ks, I don't see a reason why you shouldn't go to Justin Thomas. He's not prohibitive in terms of salary or ownership. Didn't Fitz just come back from an injury? Yes, he did. He was battling a neck injury early in the year, and that's why I was a little off of him in terms of at the Tournament of Champions at the Century. But with him playing so much, I figured that his neck injury had at least healed, or it was good enough to where he would play to at least some modicum of the Matt Fitzpatrick we saw last year. And perhaps I haven't taken enough of that injury into account. That is absolutely possible that I haven't factored in that injury enough with Fitzpatrick. But I've just been very high on him, and he's let me down. So I'm starting to be a little bit more cautious with Fitzpatrick. But again, in the 10Ks, I think Justin Thomas is going to have to be the number one player. He's not prohibitive enough in price. He's not a John Rahm 11-8 or 11-6 or anything like that. You can take a Justin Thomas and still not have to fret too much about going into the 6Ks. I think I'm going to make Sam Burns my second rated 10K, or the second best option in the 10Ks. Look, he's the most unique of these four, and he loves Innisbrook. So I'll go Thomas first in the 10Ks, Sam Burns second. I want to say Fitzpatrick third, but I'll go Fitzpatrick third. A lot of that is still the belief in the fact that he is the number one bogey avoider when it's difficult. He scrambles extremely well when it's difficult. So it's a lot of this belief on the difficult narrative that I'll make Fitzpatrick third, although admittedly I'm pretty cautious. And I think Jordan Spieth's just fine. He's only played this event once, so I wouldn't get too hung up on the course value, and it's a pretty volatile course. The irons are pretty darn good, but he has been known to get pretty wayward, and if you're wayward on this course, it's going to spell disaster. That's why I'm also pretty hesitant, or at least I'm not all in on Sam Burns, because he has not been very good finding fairways or hitting the greens from the rough either. But I will go Thomas first, Sam Burns second, Fitz third, and Spieth fourth in the 10Ks. Moving to the 9s, we have Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Denny McCarthy, Adam Hadwin, Brian Harman, and Davis Riley. There's really only one unique option here in the 9Ks. It's Brian Harman, and I completely agree with that. You see the ranking, you see the analytics. This just doesn't feel like a good Brian Harman course. The irons have not been very good at all lately. You see the par 3s, which he needs to take advantage of because he's not long. He has not been doing that. So Brian Harman hadn't been playing well. Otherwise, there's a whole lot of chalk in the 9Ks. This is where a lot of your fellow contestants are coming. Tommy Fleetwood, chalk that I won't be able to get away from. 20% projected ownership. It's going to be higher than that thanks to Keegan's withdrawal. So I would fully expect a 21-22% owned Tommy Fleetwood. It's chalk I'm not going to get away from. The iron play has been good. The par 3s, he's number one in the length of the par 5s. He's number one in around the green, strokes gained around the green and long rough. Third in bogey avoidance when it's difficult. Just everything's lining up for Tommy Fleetwood. So I'm going to use Tommy. Justin Rose, also somebody I'm very, very high on. Fifth in irons. He's got a lot going for him as well. I do not like that ownership, so if you have a reason that you want to stay away from Justin Rose, take it. I would much, much rather come up to Tommy Fleetwood than Justin Rose, since they are so comparable in price, and it looks like they are comparable in ownership. I think Tommy Fleetwood's going to be a little bit more owned than 20%. And I don't think Justin Rose hits 18 or whatever. But considering the comparable price, I will take the extra ownership. Just give me Tommy Fleetwood. I'm much more confident in that. And then Adam Hadwin, also very, very chalky. You see the top 3 players in my rankings here in the 9Ks. I mean, Adam Hadwin, a former champion here at Innisbrook in 2017. The irons have been okay, and that's usually not his strong suit. But you see the good drives gained when it's difficult. Second in par 3s. Fifth at the specific length of par 3s here at Innisbrook. Now the par 4 lengths have been pretty bad, but again, it's based on this difficult narrative that I'm going with. Not top 10 in bogey avoidance when it's difficult. We just saw the good drives gained. Over here, 16th. Around the green, just off your screen, is 25th. There's a lot to like with Adam Hadwin, and he's going to be pretty widely owned. I imagine the majority of your fellow contestants are going Fleetwood and Rose or Fleetwood and Hatton. Or Hadwin, not Hatton. The other two in the 9Ks, McCarthy and Riley, I think they're fine. Riley came in second here last year, so he at least has, he likes the course or is able to play it. Little concerned about his par threes, especially since they're a big part here at Innisbrook. The analytics were fine on him. He's at a middling ownership. I don't think there's anything wrong with Davis Riley. I'm just choosing to go up into the 9Ks for Fleetwood, maybe a little bit of Rose, and then I'm obviously going to be using Hadwin as well. McCarthy is quite interesting. He has played this event very, very well, but a lot of that has to do with his putting. And putting is a very fickle shot. It can come and go. Now, Denny McCarthy's one of the best, if not the best putter in the world. But you see, the good drive's gained when it's difficult. He has trouble sometimes hitting the fairway or hitting the greens from the rough. He's not the best iron player. He has to rely on his putter to get his scrambling. So if the putter's on, that's great. It's a dangerous thing to do when you have to rely on the putter. Now, he is number one at the specific length of par threes. He's played par threes very, very well in 2023, so that is one good thing going for him. He's middling priced, so or middling owned, so it's fair. I will use a little bit of Denny McCarthy, seeing that he's at 10.5 projected ownership. He's in the mid nines, but really, once you get past Tommy Fleetwood and a little bit of Adam Hadwin, I've been ignoring a lot of the price board after them. I've been really, really, what's the word I'm looking for? Really stockpiling stars and scrubs lineups this week, and there's some 6Ks that I like quite a bit. So that's my look at the 9Ks. Not going to be able to get away from any of the three chalky plays in the nines. I don't want any part of Brian Harmon. McCarthy and Riley are fair if you have a strong feeling about one of them. Their price is fair. Their projected ownership is fair. I think I would go McCarthy over Riley if I had to choose, but I wouldn't have a problem using Riley if I felt like I needed to have a little exposure to him, or if he fits in a lineup per se. 8Ks. Justin Suh, Wyndham Clark, Matt McNeely, Gary Woodland, Brandon Wu, Ben Griffin, Taylor Moore, JT Poston, and KH Lee. Now, a lot of the reason why I say that I've been ignoring this part of the price board isn't the fact that I don't think they are good plays. I mean, you see some of the rankings here. Ben Griffin's in my top 10. Wyndham Clark's 10th. Justin Suh's 12th. But again, I want to bring your attention to these ownerships and the players that I'm just not going to be able to get away from. I'm going to use Justin Thomas. I'm going to use Tommy Fleetwood and Justin Rose and Adam Hadwin. That's a lot of ownership that I'm already, or a lot of chalk that I'm eating. I am choosing to lose to these 8K players, a lot of it based on just basically the percent owned, their ownership. They're getting a whole lot of love for pretty good reason. You can't take everybody. You have to find some uniqueness somewhere. So I'm going to choose to lose to the majority of these 8Ks. Now, I'm not going to full fade. I will use Wyndham Clark in a lineup, but I'm certainly staying away from them as often as I can because they are so highly projected owned. Let's talk about Justin Suh for a second. He has had some great form lately, but if you recall to the beginning of the show, right after we got to Fantasy National, I showed you the wind performances. He has been one of the worst players in the wind. Now, that's a small sample size. It's like 6 or 8 rounds. But in those few rounds, he has shown that he does not like windy conditions, and that's all that's in the forecast for this week at Innisbrook. So Justin Suh, along with the ownership, I'm going to play the wind forecast and go on the narrative that he's not been good in the wind. And if he plays well, I will lose. But I will take that chance and get some uniqueness elsewhere in the price board. So Justin Suh is a full fade for me. There's a lot here to like. 5th in irons, 10th in good drives gained, 1st in par 3s. But he has been very, very bad in the wind. So do note that. He has been very bad in the wind. Wyndham Clark getting a whole lot of love, which really sucks because I was pretty high on Wyndham Clark. I'm still high on Wyndham Clark. Number 1 in iron play. He's also 6th in around the green, and we've talked all week how much I think around the green is going to play a big factor this week. But he's getting so much love that I'm almost having to go other places, and I would much rather go to Adam Hadwin than Wyndham Clark, considering they are somewhat comparable in price. A low 9 versus a high 8. And you see Hadwin is 2nd in my rankings. Clark's 10th, so I'm just going to gravitate towards Hadwin. So, again, I don't think Clark is going to be a full fade. He plays in the wind pretty well. He's the number 1 iron player in this field, but that's a whole lot of ownership, especially since I'm so high on Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, Hadwin, and such. So, you can't use everybody. The other player that's pretty chalky in the 8s is Ben Griffin. Again, for good reason. You look at the tournament that he was playing very, very well in the fall, the Bermuda. Same style of tournament, coastal, very windy, water on the course. Now, those greens are pretty slow. These greens are pretty fast, so we'll see how he adjusts with that. 5th in par 3s, very good around the green. He's 24th. He's also, and this was his downfall at the Bermuda, he got pretty wayward off the tee. So, again, Ben Griffin, not a full fade, but I have reason to avoid him. So instead, in the 8Ks, if I do come up here, and again, I've been mainly avoiding this area, I want to bring your attention to Brandon Wu. Brandon Wu is somebody who has played similar style courses well, also, like Ben Griffin. He was a T6 last year at Vedanta in Mexico. That is a coastal course. It's long, like the Valspar, like Innisbrook. He's also played well here in his one time here at Innisbrook. He's top 10 in irons, 11th in good drives gained. Now, the around the green is what is suspect for him. So take that what you will. And also scrambling here, but that's a lot to do with the around the green. Taking Brandon Wu as a play on the irons, thinking that he won't have to use the around the green as much. It's a little bit more dangerous, granted, but you're going to gain a whole lot of uniqueness coming to Brandon Wu as opposed to a Ben Griffin, a Wyndham Clark, or a Justin Suh in the 8Ks. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention Gary Woodland. He loves the wind and he loves long courses, but he has not played well lately. And he hasn't particularly played this event well either. But he plays very, very well when it's difficult, and he plays very, very well in the wind. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention Gary Woodland. But that's my look in the 8s. I've been trying to avoid it. Justin Suh is my bold call, if you will. I'm going to full fade him because of the wind and the high ownership. I'm going to try to avoid Wyndham Clark. I don't know if I'll be able to or not. I'll gravitate to Brandon Wu a little bit if I'm in the 8Ks. To move to the upper 7s, another area where I'm not going a whole lot. I want to bring your attention to Nick Taylor, somebody who is getting a middling amount of love. He played very well at Pebble Beach. Yeah, Justin Suh is that's very good play on words there, P. He's not been very good in the wind. Having said that, to be fair to Justin Suh, it is a small sample size. It's only 6 or 8 rounds, but he has been very bad in the wind. You are right. But Nick Taylor, he played very, very well at Pebble Beach. Again, a shorter course, whereas Innisbrook is on the longer end. Pebble Beach is shorter, but coastal, windy. He is very, very good. Even though he doesn't have the length, he's very good at par 5s because he's a very good wedge player. And he's very good around the green, as you can see here. So I want to bring your attention to Nick Taylor. Nate Lashley, the favorite at Puerto Rico, he ends up coming in second. So not a disappointing tournament by any means. One of the top accuracy players in the field this week in terms of off the tee. Top 30 in irons. I like a lot to do with Nate Lashley in the upper sevens. Robbie Shelton, even though he is 7th in my rankings, I'm going to be avoiding Robbie Shelton because he has the bad draw, or quote bad draw. He does have the morning draw, and he has not been great in the wind. He has certainly been better than what Justin Suh has shown, but if you've been bad in the wind, I want you to have the Thursday afternoon tee time, and Robbie Shelton is in the Thursday morning. Let's see. Elsewhere in the upper sevens, Bhatia, I imagine he'll probably be a little bit more projected owned than this. So, I don't know. I just don't have a good feeling about Bhatia. Higo, it doesn't feel like a Garrick Higo course because you have to be able to hit the fairway, and he can spray it with the best of them. Jaeger is a little bit interesting. But you see the accuracy off the tee can be not there, just simply not there. A play on Jaeger is the par threes and the around the green. So it's an interesting play, but you're going to be matching quite a few people, a few of your fellow contestants by going to Jaeger. I don't hate it, but that's why I wanted to mention Nick Taylor and Nate Lashley to give you a little bit of uniqueness off of Stephan Jaeger. Moving to the low sevens, this is an area where I have been very, very comfortable going. Let's start again with Ben Martin. Love Ben Martin this week. Top 10 in irons, top 20 in par threes, top 10 in 400 to 450 par fours. I just think Ben Martin is going to play very, very well this week. He's going to be one of the players that I'll lose to if he doesn't play well. Somebody else that I'll lose to if he doesn't play well. I'm going to jump onto the Pearson Coody bandwagon. Very good with the irons in the few measured rounds we have from Fantasy National. Top 15 in par threes this calendar year. You look at his performance in rounds that have been difficult, 21st and 16th, with avoiding bogeys, scrambling. The par fours have been good. Take a look at Pearson Coody, and he's only sitting at 6% as of right now. So I've been firing up a whole lot of Pearson Coody. David Lingmerth, again, his very, very positive Players Championship. Shelton has the good wave. How you doing, Ray? Thanks for jumping in chat. Let me bring up a spreadsheet or a file that I use for my purposes because I have the wave up there. So pardon me while I bring this up. I'll just have this off to the side. Shelton, you said, has the good wave. For some reason, I thought he was in the morning tomorrow. But I could be wrong. Robbie Shelton. No, you are right. He is in the afternoon. Okay. Well, I stand corrected. Good catch. Good catch, Ray. Good shout. Maybe that gives you a little bit more reason to jump on Robbie Shelton. And it looks like I'm going to have to reconsider Robbie Shelton because I really thought he was on the bad end of the wave. I do know he's still not the best in the wind, but him being in the supposed good wave does help his case. So good catch there. And thanks for the correction, Ray. Absolutely. But yeah, back into the low sevens. Like I said, Lingmerth, I really like his successful Players Championship. He puts Poa Trivialis extremely well. He's one of the few players that has gained on all of the other Poa Trivialis courses, the Amex, Waste Management, Sawgrass, and Valero. He has been positive the past 5 years putting on all of those surfaces. I really like David Lingmerth. I wouldn't go crazy with it, but at 5.5%, he's absolutely worth throwing into a couple of lineups, especially if you're trying to find some uniqueness. Eric Cole's getting a lot of love, again, off of his impressive performance at the Honda. I like Eric Cole, but 13% seems pretty heavy. So, and he's not the best around the green at all. So, a little wary with Eric Cole, but there's enough to like here. If that's where you are, I would just prefer not to eat 13% chalk on a low 7. I think Gerard will be fine. We last saw him, I believe, at Puerto Rico, and he played fine. Top 15 in irons. Now, his par 3s have not been good, so he's going to have to be better this week from the par 3s. But he is number 1 in this field at these short-ish par 4s, the 400 to 450. So I do like Ryan Gerard in that sense. 10.5 is fair. I would have liked it to have been a little lower, but it's not Eric Cole at 13%, and you're also avoiding some of the chalk a little bit higher up here. So I don't mind Ryan Gerard. Ben Taylor, again, for putting. He has shown that he is just a very, very good putter, so take a look at Ben Taylor if you are thinking about David Lingmerth as well. Really, I think that might be it for the low 7s. I'll mention David Lipsky. I'm not in love with it, but it's all about the iron play. It's all about the irons for David Lipsky. If his putter ever cooperates, which you can say that about a lot of players, I understand it, but he is a very prolific iron player waiting for the putter to cooperate 1 week. And he's also not terrible in the wind. I can't recall. I might have to cheat. In fact, I am. I'm going to cheat. Where is David Lipsky in the wind? I know the vision's skewed. I apologize. Give me a second. Let me change these filters for you all. And David Lipsky in the wind. 26, yeah. Just off of your screen. He's 26th in this field in terms of wind performance. So take a look at David Lipsky. 26th is right there, right above my ugly nug. There you go. So take a look at David Lipsky. I don't hate it at 7K. But yeah, that's what I look like, or what I'm looking at for the lower 7s. Joey, thanks for jumping in chat. Yes, you too. Good luck this week. Hopefully you've got your lineups all set and stuff, which, as a reminder for anyone who has joined late or joined in the middle of the show, Keegan Bradley has withdrawn, so make sure you go and double check your lineups. Take him out of your lineups if you've already submitted them. Keegan Bradley has withdrawn. But we're going to go into the 6Ks very quickly. I've been talking for quite a while, and we still have lineups to make. So in the 6Ks, there are a few players that I do like in the 6Ks. Most of your fellow contestants are coming to Dylan Wu. And I understand it. He's had some pretty good form lately. He takes advantage of par 5s, as you can see, especially the length of the par 5s here. He's also very good at the specific length of par 4s. 12% is a whole lot for a 6K play. So I'm going to try to give you a couple of names to maneuver around Dylan Wu if you're needing to come down into the 6Ks. First person I'm going to suggest is Uncle Luke for you, P. Look, it's the irons. He's been very good with the irons. He's a former champion here at Innisbrook. Yes, it was way back in 2012, but he has played this course very, very well the few times he has played it. The irons have still been there in 2023. He's a very prolific par 3 scorer. The thing that's been hurting him has been the scrambling. So you're banking on the irons. Every player in the 6K is going to have a wart or two. I don't hate Luke Donald. I'm not rushing to use him in a lot of lineups, but if you're gravitating towards the 6Ks, take a look at Luke Donald. Elsewhere in the 6Ks, somebody else I really want to gravitate your attention to, Augusto Nunez. He played pretty darn well at Puerto Rico. The irons haven't been great, but unlike Luke Donald, his scrambling and whatnot has been pretty good. And look at his metrics when it's been difficult. And again, I've talked all week how I think it's going to be difficult. Good drives gained. He's been pretty accurate, pretty good, especially for a 6K. He's 42nd. Long rough. scrambling, 7th. Bogey avoidance, top 50. Top 20 in scrambling when it's difficult. Again, a lot of this is on that difficult narrative. If you're coming down into the 6Ks, I think Augusto Nunez is going to be very solid for you in the lineup or two that you use him. I'm not suggesting to put him in every lineup, but I think the times that you use Augusto Nunez, I think he's going to be a very solid contributor for you this week. Last name I want to throw out for you in the 6Ks is John Vanderlaan. I really like John Vanderlaan. We saw him at Puerto Rico. Par 3s, solid. The length of the par 4s, pretty solid. He's going to be pretty unique. I think John Vanderlaan is going to be a pretty unique play for you in the 6K. So take a look at those three players if you are having to come down into the 6Ks. And I don't hate coming into the 6Ks this week, especially to try and fit some of the chalk up at the top of the price board. All right, we've got lineups still to make, and I've been running my yap for a long time. So for those who play tiers contests, in the tiers this week, tier 1, you have Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, and Matt Fitzpatrick. I'm going to take Justin Thomas. I think he's just the safest play. He's probably got the highest upside as well. Fitzpatrick's going to be the unique option, but we've talked about how he has struggled recently, and he's also probably still dealing with that injury that I haven't, admittedly, have not taken enough into account. So I'll take Justin Thomas in tier 1. If you are really needing to be unique, take Fitzpatrick. Joanne, thanks for jumping in chat. I think I'm saying that right. Is it Joan or Joanne? But thanks again for jumping in chat. I don't hate that idea of fading the 10Ks at all. I really don't. We just finished going through the price board. There are a few players in the 9s that I like. If you do come into the 10Ks, I am going to suggest you should go all the way to the top in Justin Thomas. But I don't hate that idea of not going into the 10s. I really don't. All right, tier 2, Sam Burns, Tommy Fleetwood, Justin Rose, and Adam Hadwin. Well, you've got first, second, third in my rankings. You also have Sam Burns, who's the 2-time defending champion. If you're a big believer in course history, take Sam Burns. I'm going to take Tommy Fleetwood. He's just the number 1 player in my rankings. However, I think the safest play is going to be Adam Hadwin. But I will take Tommy Fleetwood in tier 2. Tier 3, Denny McCarthy, Brian Harmon, Davis Riley, Justin Suh, and Ben Griffin. Justin Suh looks to be like the chalky play. I think I'm out on Denny McCarthy because it's a lot of pressure to put on one skill set. I don't want any part of Brian Harmon. So I think by default, I'm probably going to go to Ben Griffin in tier 3 because I think Justin Suh is going to be a little bit too chalky for my liking. I've already taken chalk in Thomas and Fleetwood, so I'm going to try to find a little bit of uniqueness in Ben Griffin. It's not going to be a lot, but I'm going to try to find a little bit there. So Ben Griffin in tier 3. Tier 4, Wyndham Clark, Mav McNeely, Gary Woodland, Brandon Wu, Taylor Moore, and KH Lee. I don't want either of those 2 players for tiers. Wyndham Clark's a good play, but he's going to be very, very chalky. I don't want McNeely. Speaking of injuries, he's still, I think, dealing with injury with his shoulder. Gary Woodland is interesting because he plays longer courses well. He plays in the wind well. But give me Brandon Wu. Give me Brandon Wu in tier 4. If, for whatever reason, you are able to take the chalk as you have went unique in the first 3 tiers, then take Wyndham Clark. But give me Brandon Wu in tier 4. Tier 5, JT Poston, Ben On, Stefan Jaeger, Victor Perret, Ludwig Aberg, I think is how you say it, Johnny Vegas, and Nick Taylor. Not a lot I like in here, to be honest with you. I'm going to take Nick Taylor. Ludwig Aberg, the amateur, actually pretty interesting for tiers because he's going to be extremely unique. And he's played well lately, including last week at the Players. But I'm going to take Nick Taylor in tier 5. I also don't hate Stefan Jaeger, but he's probably the chalky option in tier 5. And then finally, in tier 6, you got Adam Schenk, Marty Laird, Mark Hubbard, S.H. Kim, Lee Hodges, David Lipsky, and Harry Hall. For me, I'm between David Lipsky and Harry Hall. They're both pretty darn unique. I'll go Lipsky. I don't hate the idea of Harry Hall, though. but I'll go Lipsky in tier 6. All right, let's try to make some classic lineups here very, very quickly and see how our fellow contestants are generating their lineups. So if we're going to be making these chalky lineups, wind is going to be bad this week. Yeah, exactly. We covered Wind Finder right before we went to Fantasy National. The wind is actually the calmest supposedly tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon actually looks pretty good for wind. It's supposed to die down. And then Saturday has thunderstorms in the forecast for Palm Harbor. And Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all of that is just 30-mile-an-hour winds. 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts and 25-mile-an-hour sustained. Looks awful. So as I said in the beginning, I am basically forcing players to be pretty good in the wind, or if they're not, they have to have the Thursday PM draw. Let's see. If we're going to try to make the chalkiest of chalky lineups, it looks like your fellow contestants are doing something to the effect of, we'll say, Tommy Fleetwood, Adam Hadwin, coming on down to probably Wyndham Clark, although this could very well be Justin Subb at Wyndham Clark, Ben Griffin, Dylan Wu at 6,800 is getting quite a bit of love if your fellow contestants are dropping into the 6Ks. This leaves 7,000. There's not a lot at 7,000 that's getting a whole lot of love, so they might be coming off one of these players a little bit. Let's see, 84. Jaeger's a little bit. Wyndham Clark. I was trying to be as cheap as possible with some of these. Well, the highest at 7,000 is only 3%, so that's not where your fellow contestants are going. 7,300 is Eric Cole. This is over by 300, so we'll need to drop something. Woodland's getting a little bit. This could be a look at something. My guess is they would probably have a second 9K, but they very well could be doing something to this effect, where you have Tommy Fleetwood and then 3 8s, Justin Subb, Wyndham Clark, Ben Griffin, the 3 chalky 8s, a low 7, and then the 6. That's almost 16% projected match in your big GPPs. Very, very chalky. And that's why I was trying to avoid the 8Ks, because that's seemingly where a lot of your fellow contestants are going. Of course, I'm not going to be able to get away from Fleetwood and all that. If your fellow contestants are going to be using Justin Thomas, again, we're going to use Dylan Wu. I try to use different players, but it is what it is. He's getting the most love. Otherwise, your fellow contestants are probably building lineups that kind of look something along these lines. You got Ryan Gerard, Nate Lashley's at 11%, Stefan Jaeger maybe at 78. Then you have 8,600 per. You've got Ben Griffin and Wyndham Clark. Exactly. So there's a look at another possible style of lineup with Justin Thomas and a couple of 8s instead of Tommy Fleetwood and 3 8s. A little bit more unique in the sense that you have Gerard. This could also easily be Eric Cole, and that's going to jump the ownership quite a bit. But again, just trying to give you different names that some of your fellow contestants are going. All right. If we're going to try to maneuver around that, I mentioned how if I'm going to come into the 10Ks, it's Justin Thomas. But my number 2 player, again, am I picking him to win the tournament? No. But I still think he's going to be pretty useful in DFS. It's Sam Burns. The Bermuda Burns for a reason. You see the course value. He's only at 11.5% owned. You're taking a risk because the game hasn't been where Sam Burns normally is. But he's the 2-time winner of this tournament. Until he shows that he can't play this tournament, I'll believe in him. And then again, without trying to use a lot of the chalk in the 8s, this would be Brandon Wu. Still going to be a little bit difficult to avoid chalk. You can use Davis Riley here. I don't hate a Denny McCarthy. I would still try to probably squeeze Tommy Fleetwood in, knowing that I'm comfortable going into the 6Ks. So that's where I'm going to go with this lineup. If you aren't, then we could maybe move some things around. But this is kind of the start that I've tried to been running into. I still try to fit a Tommy Fleetwood or an Adam Hadwin, a little bit less of Justin Rose, but I still try to fit one of those 3 in there. I mean, after all, they are first, second, and third in my rankings. But I've been gravitating to Brandon Wu quite a bit. And then, like I mentioned, there's a couple players in the upper 7s, but I don't have any problem hitting these low 7s quite a bit. I've mentioned Ben Martin, Pearson Coody, David Lingmerth. All of these players I really like. I'm going to use Lingmerth in this example. So we got Lingmerth. Then we got 7,100 per player. Not a whole ton. You can take a look at Ben Taylor at 72. Again, I like Ryan Gerard. He's a little bit more chalky. At 7,000, Harry Hall I don't hate. David Lipsky I don't hate. Going to be a wave stack starting with 2 9Ks. Yeah, I wouldn't, like I said, I'm not going to outright eliminate somebody if they're playing in the morning wave, because a lot of your premier players are in the morning wave. Like Sam Burns, he's in the morning wave. Spieth is in the morning wave. What's the other feature group that's in the morning wave? Hadwin's in the morning wave. So a lot of your bigger time players are playing tomorrow morning, so supposedly have the worst end of the draw. Justin Thomas is in the morning wave. Denny McCarthy's in the morning wave. Riley, Ben Griffin are in the morning wave, and that's supposedly the worst end of the draw. Again, I'm not going to outright remove anybody, but if I have a tiebreaker between players, I'm definitely going to take the one that is playing Thursday afternoon. But I generally, unless it's just a complete obvious factor, and I don't see that being the case this week, then I'll try to use like probably a 4 or a 5 of 6. I'm going to try not to do a full 6 of 6 stack. If it happens to come out that way, great. Let's see, 71. Let's see. Friday afternoon is really bad. Yeah, but I mean, based on what I saw or what we saw in Windfinder, Friday was pretty consistent for everybody. Let me finish this lineup and then I'll bring up Windfinder again. Like I said, I don't mind David Lipsky at 7,000, and that leaves you 7,200. You can come to Ben Taylor, who I don't hate. If you're comfortable going into the 6s, you can drop David Lipsky into the 6s and pick up another low 7. So I'll use a Ben Taylor and then not go into the 6s. But I mean, that's the kind of the lineup shell that I've been looking at. Yes, I do have a little bit of chalk here with Tommy Fleetwood, but still sub 10%. David Lingmerth coming off a very good Players' Championship. Ben Taylor in the putting. David Lipsky, quite speculative, sure, but so is a lot of players considering the level of quality in this field. Let me switch the view for you all really quickly, and I will bring back up Windfinder. So if we take a look at the super forecast, Friday looks fairly equal. Looks fairly equal for everybody. And again, that's all I can do is go by the forecast. Now, certainly you have more gusts in the morning. And generally the wind picks up in the afternoon. Yes. But that's why I'm saying that the best wind looks to be Thursday afternoon. Because everyone's going to be dealing with wind at some point. No matter what, every player is going to be dealing with wind on Friday. It looks like Thursday morning's dealing with wind. And then the full forecast, I mean, Saturday is atrocious and thunderstorms in the area. Sunday, you got 20 mile an hour sustained. If this tournament gets pushed into Monday, you got 20 mile an hour sustained with 30 gusts. I mean, players are going to be dealing with wind regardless. But based on the super forecast, which in my experience has been the most accurate, it doesn't look like Thursday afternoon is terrible. So Thursday afternoon, Friday morning would be the preferred, but I'm not going to kick anybody out simply for having the early morning tee time, because everybody's going to be dealing with wind on Friday, regardless of your tee time. But certainly the better end of the draw, you're right, is Thursday afternoon. I won't argue that. I'll keep that up in case anyone has more questions. Let me go to Microsoft Excel. Let me show you a spicy little lineup that I've been toying around with, and I'm trying to wait until I get the latest update on Windfinder, which will come at 10:40 Eastern. I've been waiting to try and get that update. But something that I've been trying to do, and I've mentioned that I'm not afraid to come down into the 6Ks. I think it's very, very bold, reckless to do it twice. I don't hate it, though, because of the amount of chalk you have up here in your upper price board, in your 10s and your 9s. So I don't hate the idea of going a double six. I wouldn't do it often, but something to the effect of, say, maybe an Augusto Nunez and Luke Donald, or an Augusto Nunez and Gim, Vanderlaan, something to that effect. But essentially, the shell of the lineup that I've been going, I'm going Justin Thomas and Tommy Fleetwood, because even though Justin Thomas is the highest price, he's not prohibitive, and he's fantastic in the wind. Tommy Fleetwood has the good end of the draw. I'm not afraid to go into the sixes, and I really, really like Augusto Nunez. I've been fine avoiding the 8s and the upper 7s. I've been fine doing it. In fact, I've tried to do some lineups with, another 9. I don't know if I'll be able to do it with Justin Thomas. Might have to go to a Sam Burns or a Matt Fitzpatrick. But certainly I've been trying to squeeze in a 10-9-9 or maybe a 10-9 and, Wyndham Clark. This would have to absolutely change, like Sam Burns, and be less chalky. But something to this effect, and if I have to squeeze in a second 6K, I don't hate it because there are 3 or 4 players I don't mind. Now we have 6,000 per, or 6,750 per player, so this would be, that's John Vanderlaan that I talked about a little earlier, and then at 7,000 even is Lipsky. Sig might be slightly interesting. I'll just use David Lipsky again. Like I said, it's not perfect, and again, I haven't finished my lineups, but that's kind of an idea that I've been trying to toy with, is to squeeze in as much greed as I can up here, knowing that I'm going to be pretty unique, having to go into the 6s. If that lineup doesn't suit your fancy, like you mentioned, Joanne, you can skip the 10Ks entirely. By doing that, you're guaranteeing yourself some chalk. Whether it's Fleetwood, whether it's Rose, Hadwin, all 3 of those guys are chalky. But you can absolutely do it. We haven't thrown Justin Rose in a lineup. Let's go Justin Rose. You could go Davis Riley, although he's on the bad end of the draw. If you're a believer in Davis Riley, you can certainly go that route. I would absolutely do like a Brandon Wu to try to keep the ownership as low as possible. Thanks to Ray for correcting me earlier. Shelton is not the best in the wind, but he has the good end of the draw. Shelton's somebody you could absolutely throw in this. You are getting a solid player at fairly middling level ownership. I mean, you still have 7,700 per. This is the makings of a balanced lineup. Brian Harman. See, I am nowhere near Brian Harman this week. Nowhere near. His irons haven't been very, very good. He's not long, so he's got to take advantage of the par threes, which he hasn't been doing in 2023 at all. At all. Now, he is a grinder, like a Terrell Hatton, a Fitzpatrick. He avoids bogeys. He's certainly got your uniqueness, that's for sure, but I can't recommend a Brian Harman. But if that's where you're going, then absolutely you would have Brian Harman, Davis Riley, or Brandon Wu. You got 7,500 here, like I mentioned. I'll throw in Robbie Shelton, but 7,400s, Pearson Cootie, and I really, really like Ben Martin this week at 74. Really like Ben Martin. It's top 10 in irons, top 20 in the par threes, which there are 5 par threes here. That's another reason why I'm so low on Brian Harman. He hasn't shown that he's playing the par threes well. The reason why I'm not using Justin Suh, he's been really bad in the wind. Small sample size, it's 6 or 8 rounds or something to that effect, but he's been very bad in the wind. So Justin Suh is my bold call of the week or whatever. I'm full fading Justin Suh. But that's what I have for you all. We've run over a little bit on time, but it's been very fun. So if there are more questions, I will absolutely stay on. Good luck to you this week as well, Joanne. If Brian Harman works out for you, all the power to you. I can't recommend it. So that's where you and I will differ. Thoughts on Hubbard? He's interesting. Mark Hubbard's interesting. I took a gander at him for sure. He hasn't been terribly accurate. You mentioned, or we've talked about injuries of Fitzpatrick and the McNeely. Mark Hubbard is also coming off an injury late in the fall. It was right before or right after the RSM, and he hasn't played particularly well. You see the good drives gained, pretty poor. Now he's always been a pretty good iron player, and the short par fours are his bread and butter, which is what Innisbrook has quite a bit. I don't hate it, especially since if you're going to be looking to get away from some of the other low 7 chalk. Let me bring up his page in Fantasy National. I'll switch the view for you. So Mark Hubbard, decent. Off the tee's never really been his thing. He is very good, and this is in the wind. So he can play in the wind. The form is it's I don't know. It's kind of hit and miss. So I really hate to give you the on the fence answer like that, but that's really where I'm at. I mean, he did top 20 Pebble Beach, but it was all in irons. A couple missed cuts, and then he's made a couple of cuts. Sure, he's not very good when it's difficult, but he does play well in the wind. I wouldn't worry too much about the putting because this is not true Bermuda. I don't hate it. Is what I mean. Again, I hate to be on the fence with that, but I don't hate it. This does not feel like a Zach Johnson course. Even though he's so good in the wind, this does not feel like a Zach Johnson course. I mean, the Arnold Palmer, he made the cut, The Honda, as difficult as it is short. This is not a short course. Waste management is not really all that long. The Amex is short. I'm not there with Zach Johnson now. Yes, career-wise, he's been good when it's difficult. He's been fine in the wind. You playing Zach Johnson is going to be on the storyline or the narrative of, and let me scroll to him because I forget where he's at in price. I know he's, yeah, right there. You see, the irons haven't been great. What you're playing Zach Johnson for are these short par fours, and you're banking that it is so tough this week that literally everybody has wedge in their hand. If everybody has wedge in their hand, then I feel pretty good about Zach Johnson. But the irons have been, I mean, he's not been avoiding bogeys, especially when it's difficult. The irons haven't been great. I get it's just here. He's usually picked this regular field and played good last week. Sure, yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely on Mark Hubbard. Yeah. As much as I haven't paid enough attention, admittedly, to Fitzpatrick's injury, I've probably overused or overthought Mark Hubbard's injury because I used Mark Hubbard a lot in the fall. That's why I had a fairly successful fall. Or part of the reason why I had a fairly successful fall is because he played extremely well. But coming off injury, you just kind of have to wait and see. Like I said, I don't hate it, and he's unique enough. He's unique enough to where you're going to be gaining quite a bit. Johnson has good course history. He does, absolutely, he does. But course history here doesn't mean as much as some other courses. So I'll bring up one other file for you all. This is my early look file that I show on Sunday and Mondays. Let's take a look at this winner matrix. And this, what I mean by winner matrix, this is gathering or showing a player's performance in the years leading up to their wins at a particular tournament. Sam Burns has always played this event very, very well. Paul Casey didn't play for 3 years and then wins. He missed the cut before that, but he was a 2-time champion. You had Charles Schwartzel, John Sinden, and Kevin Streelman, who had never played the course and won. So course history for me this week is not as much as it is, say, at a Genesis or at a Farmers or some of these other places we've been recently, or Honda. Like Honda, even though it has so much water in play, generally if you've played Honda well, you've played it well, and if you haven't, you don't. Now, it can, Spieth and Burns, sure. But it's not as big of a deal for me this week as it has been in other tournaments lately. So if you're a big believer in course history, yeah, he would fit right along with an Adam Hadwin, who's played exceptional here. I know the course value doesn't seem that great, but he's a former champion here. In that regard, you would want to go Davis Riley. He finished second here last year. Brandon Wu's been pretty good here. Honestly, Cage Lee's been pretty good here. This one. We'll take a look at some of these average finishes. These are some of the players that have played well here, like Russell Knox. If you're wanting to go on course history. Luke Donald is somebody you would want to take in course history. He's a former champion here, and he's 4 for 4 in the last 4 years here, or last 4 tries here. There's Zach Johnson. You're right. He's 3 for 4 in making the cut with an average finish of just about a top 40. That's pretty good. You're right. It just doesn't feel like a Zach Johnson course. Serve and P, Joey, Joanne, Ray, thanks everybody for jumping in chat. I really do appreciate it. It's a lot of fun especially when everybody gets together and starts putting their minds to it, challenging what I see, challenging what I think. Hopefully I've done the same for you, giving you some angles to think about and to consider. It was a lot of fun this week. Thanks for supporting the channel like you all have consistently, week after week, month after month. I always appreciate it. Love what I do, being able to talk analytics in golf and trying to win some money in the process. So thanks for subscribing, watching, commenting. In the comments of the video, let me know how your lineups do, any wagers that you make. As always, I want to be able to shout out members of the community that win. And hopefully this weekend is going to be one of those where I get a lot of feedback either in the comments or on social media letting me know that people win. I will absolutely do that next week. And I do that every week at the beginning of the week. Which, speaking of next week, it's a double tournament week again. The main tournament is the Dell Match Play. So right in the middle of March Madness, we're going to have a very fun week with that. I'll fill out some brackets on Tuesday evening in the DFS Tactics show. So next week, the schedule will change slightly because Match Play starts Wednesday. We're going to go Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday for the Match Play, Initial Research, Data Dive, and DFS Tactics. And then Wednesday night will be the Corrales full show. So again, another double tournament week. So set your reminders that we'll have a show every night next week at 9 p.m. Eastern. But thanks again. Always appreciate it. For all of the wagers that you have made this week for the Valspar Championship, for all of the DFS contests you've entered this week for the Valspar Championship, for this weekend and every weekend, may all your bets be profitable.